Hello and welcome to episode 22 of the Altius Images Drone Positive podcast. I'm Todd Dudley and I'm the founder and director of Altius Images. As a drone pilot, the negative press that drones receive annoys me no end. This podcast is trying to change the negative public perception of our multi-roted friends, one positive story at a time. There are plenty of stories out there that show just how amazing drones can be, and I will bring you one of those stories each week. So let's fly into some positivity and see just how amazing drones are. So we've had a long time away from the podcast, so if you are back listening, thank you very much for joining us again. We've just been away getting some other things sorted, but we are back with a brand new episode and a brand new logo, so check that out on our social media if you haven't seen it yet. Huge thank you to Matt Laidman for sorting out that. We absolutely love it. So today we're back with a bang as we look at how a drone has recently been used on the surface of Mars. Yep, that is right, as in the actual planet Mars. So NASA has successfully flown a small helicopter on Mars. The drone, called Ingenuity, was airborne for less than a minute, but NASA is celebrating what represents the first powered controlled flight by an aircraft on another world, which is pretty unreal stuff, really. Like, we're getting into the proper realms of sci-fi and futurist stuff here. Confirmation of the flight came via a satellite at Mars, which relayed the chopper's data back to Earth. And the space agency is promising more adventurous flights in the days ahead. Ingenuity will be commanded to fly higher and further as engineers seek to test the limits of the technology. The rotorcraft was carried to Mars in the belly of NASA's Perseverance rover, which touched down in Jezero crater on the Red Planet in February. Mimi Ong, who is the project manager for Ingenuity at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, JPL, in Pasadena, California, said, "We can now say that human beings have flown a rotorcraft on another planet. We've been talking for so long about our Wright brothers moment on Mars, and here it is." This, of course, is a reference to Wilbur and Orville Wright, who conducted the first powered controlled aircraft flight here on Earth in 1903. Ingenuity even carries a small swatch of fabric from one of the wings of Flyer 1, the aircraft that made that historic flight at Kitty Hawk, North Carolina, more than 117 years ago. Pretty cool stuff. There were cheers in the JPL control centre as the first photos of the flight arrived back on Earth, and in the background, Mimi Ankh could be heard saying, "It's real." To claps from her colleagues, she tore up the contingency speech to have been used in the event of failure. The demonstration saw the Mars copter rise to just over 3 metres, hover, swivel 96 degrees, hover some more, and then sit down. So a pretty basic flight, but we will let them off considering it was on literally a different planet. In all, it managed almost 40 seconds of flight from takeoff to landing. Getting airborne on the Red Planet is not easy. The atmosphere is very thin, just 1% of the density here at Earth. This gives the blades on a rotorcraft very little to bite into to gain lift. There's help from the lower gravity at Mars, but still, it takes a lot of work to get up off the ground. Ingenuity was therefore made extremely light and given the power, a peak power of 350 watts, to turn those blades extremely fast, at over 2,500 revolutions per minute for this particular flight. Control was autonomous, and the distance to Mars, currently just under 300 million kilometres, means radio signals take minutes to traverse the intervening space. Flying by joystick is simply out of the question. Asked whether she was surprised that the flight had worked, Mimi Aung said, "No, I'm not. We really had nailed the equations, the models, and the verification here on Earth in our lab tests. So it then became a question of, have we chosen the right materials to build Ingenuity, to survive the space environment, to survive the Mars environment? We've gone from theory says you can to really now having it done. It's a major first for the human race." Ingenuity has 2 cameras on board, a black and white camera that points down to the ground, which is used for navigation, and a high-resolution colour camera that looks out to the horizon. Sample navigation images sent back to Earth revealed the helicopter's shadow on the floor of the crater as it came back into land. The Perseverance rover was watching and snapping away from a distance of 65 metres. Its full sequence video can be seen by following the link in the show's description. And NASA has announced that the airstrip in Jezero, where Perseverance dropped off Ingenuity for its demonstration, will henceforth be known as the Wright Brothers Field. The International Civil Aviation Organization, or the ICAO, which is the United Nations Civil Aviation Agency, has also presented NASA and the US Federal Aviation Administration with an official ICAO designator, IGY, India Golf Yankee, with the call sign Ingenuity, and those details will be officially included in the next edition of ICAO's designators for aircraft, operating agencies, aeronautical authorities and services. This was all explained by Havard Grip, who's the Mars helicopter's chief pilot at JPL. Monday's successful maiden outing means that a further 4 flights will be attempted over the coming days, with the first of these occurring as early as Thursday. Each succeeding flight will build on what's gone before. Dr. Grip explained, "What we're talking about here is going higher, going further, going faster, stretching the capabilities of the helicopter in those ways. We're putting the pedal down and going for it," added Dr. Thomas Buchan, the head of science at NASA. The hope is this initial demonstration could eventually transform how we explore some distant worlds. Drones might be used to scout ahead for future rovers, and even astronauts once they eventually get to Mars. Michael Watkins, JPL director, said, "What the Ingenuity team has done is given us the third dimension. They've freed us from the surface now forever in planetary exploration, so that we can make a combination of driving on the surface and sampling the surface, doing reconnaissance, and even scientific experimentation on inaccessible places for a rover. This is exactly the way we build the future." Bob Balaram, Ingenuity's chief engineer, said ideas for larger helicopters were already being discussed. "We're thinking of things in the 25 to 30 kilogram class of vehicles, and those vehicles would carry maybe about 4 kilograms of science instruments," he told reporters. NASA has already approved a helicopter mission to Titan, the big moon of Saturn. Dragonfly, as the mission is known, should arrive at Titan in the mid-2030s. It'll be easier to fly on this moon given its very thick atmosphere, but still maybe a tricky one to figure out. So an incredible story there about how NASA are using drones on Mars now. Feels very strange to say those words out loud, but I guess it was the direction everything was going. A successful drone flight on Mars can only mean more drones will be used in the future for all sorts of things on this planet and others. For the full story and to see the drone in action, follow the link in the description of this episode down below. That does it for another week of Drone Positive. It is amazing to be back. We're sorry that we've been away for so long, but we will be back far more consistently now. We would love for you to get in touch with us on social media. We are at Altius Images on Twitter and Instagram, and you can find us easily enough on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube and TikTok. Just search Altius Images, or you can follow the links for our channels down below. Please do reach out. We'd love to hear from you. If you're new to the podcast and haven't heard any old episodes or our droning on episodes, please go back in our feed and look out for those, as they're well worth a listen. Thank you so much for listening, guys. It's good to be back with you. Please subscribe to, share and rate the podcast so that we can spread our positivity as far and wide as possible, and hopefully as far as Ingenuity. We will see you next Monday for episode 23 of Drone Positive. But for now, fly safe and stay safe, folks. Bye-bye.